Alarms tore through the corridor as the ship shook hard enough to throw crew members off their feet. Red light pulsed across the walls. Captain Daniel Hart grabbed the railing and pulled himself upright, shouting orders into his comm as sparks rained down from a burst panel above him. "Report! What just hit us?" "Debris field, Captain. We flew straight into a collapsed asteroid belt. Hull breach on deck 4. Daniel ran, boots slamming against metal grating, chest tight with the kind of fear that comes only when lives depend on the next 60 seconds. Deck 4 housed the coolant lines. If those failed, the reactor would overheat within minutes, and the ship, along with everyone on it, would be finished. He rounded the corner and saw her already there. Mira, one of the refugees his crew had rescued weeks earlier from a dying colony on the edge of the Chorus Expanse. Her people were not human. Smooth, dark plating covered her skin instead of soft flesh, and her eyes were large, black, and calm even now, even with pipes hissing steam around her. "The line is cracked," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "I can seal it, but I need 30 seconds without movement." "You'll get crushed if the ceiling drops another inch. Then I will work fast." She moved before he could argue, sliding beneath the broken pipe, her 4 lower limbs bracing against the floor, while her upper hands worked with a speed no human fingers could match. Metal screeched, steam scalded the air. Daniel grabbed a support beam and held it steady with his own strength, muscles burning, refusing to let it fall on her. 10 seconds. 15. The ship groaned like it might tear apart entirely. "Almost," she said. 20 seconds. Daniel's arms trembled from holding the weight. Sweat dripped into his eyes. Somewhere behind him, another explosion rocked the corridor, and dust rained from the ceiling. "Done!" The pipe sealed with a final hiss, and the shaking of the ship began to slow, the tremors easing from violent to faint. Daniel let go of the beam and dropped to his knees, breathing hard, watching Mira pull herself out from under the pipework, her plating scratched but intact. "You saved the whole deck," he said. "We saved it," she corrected. And for a moment, despite the danger they had just survived, something like relief passed between them. The ship limped through the rest of the debris field over the next several hours, alarms fading one by one as repairs held. By the time the reactor stabilized and the crew finally exhaled, night cycle lighting had dimmed the halls into a soft blue glow. Daniel found himself walking toward the observation deck out of habit more than decision, needing quiet after the noise of nearly dying. She was already there, as she often was, curled near the window with her limbs tucked beneath her, watching the stars outside, as though searching for something among them. "You should be resting," he said, stepping in beside her. "I could say the same to you, Captain." He almost smiled, but the ache in his shoulders reminded him how close today had come to being the end of everything. He sat down without asking permission, and she did not pull away, which told him more about the trust between them than words ever could. For a while, neither spoke. The stars outside moved slowly, indifferent to the danger the ship had just survived. "Can I ask you something?" she said finally. "Always. Today, when the beam was falling, you held it instead of running. Why?" "Because you were under it. That is not enough of a reason for a human to risk his life. Not for someone like me." Daniel turned to face her fully. "What do you mean, someone like you?" Mira's mandibles clicked softly. A habit he had learned meant she was nervous, the same way a human might chew their lip before saying something difficult. "I heard 2 of your crew talking last week. In the cargo bay, they did not know I was listening." Her voice grew quieter. "They were talking about beauty, about what kind of person they would want to spend their life with. They laughed when someone mentioned my name, not cruelly, but certain, as if it was obvious such a thing was impossible." "That doesn't mean anything, Mira. People say ignorant things all the time." "Maybe, but it made me realize something I already knew and had simply avoided admitting." She looked down at her own hands, sharp fingers folding together. "I am not beautiful like human women. I do not have soft skin, or hair, or a face your eyes are built to find pleasing. I have plates and claws and eyes too large for this ship's mirrors. I have spent every day since the rescue trying to be useful, because I believed usefulness was the only value I could offer a species that would never see me as anything more." Her voice cracked slightly at the end, and though her body could not produce tears, the way human eyes could. A fine tremor ran through her frame, the closest thing her people had to weeping. Daniel sat with that for a long moment, choosing his next words carefully, because he understood this was not a moment for empty comfort. "Can I tell you what I actually see when I look at you?" She did not answer, but she also did not look away, so he continued. "I see the person who held a coolant line together with her bare hands during a reactor breach 3 months ago, even though the heat should have injured her badly. I see the person who taught herself our language in weeks instead of months, so the children we rescued would have someone to comfort them in a tongue they understood. I see the person who, an hour ago, crawled under a collapsing pipe without hesitation because she trusted that I would hold the weight above her." Mira's black eyes remained fixed on him, unreadable in the low light, but her hands had stopped trembling. "None of that," Daniel said, "has anything to do with soft skin or a familiar face. You are not failing to be beautiful like a human woman. You were never meant to be. You are beautiful the way you are, the only way that has ever existed or will ever exist. I would not trade a single plate of your skin to make you look more familiar to me. Familiar was never what I wanted." For a long moment, she said nothing at all. Then something shifted in her posture, a kind of stillness breaking apart into something softer, more open. "Humans have a word for what I am feeling," she whispered. "I do not know if I am using it correctly." "Try it," Daniel said gently. "Grateful," she said. Then, after a pause, "and something more than grateful, something I do not have a word for in my own language." "You don't need the perfect word," he said, "just the honest one." She reached out slowly, the way she always did, as though giving him the chance to pull away if he wanted to. Her clawed fingers were sharp where human fingers would be soft, but warm all the same. Daniel closed his hand gently around hers, steady, without hesitation. Outside the viewport, the stars kept their slow and endless turn, indifferent to the danger the ship had survived, or the quiet moment unfolding within it. But for the first time since the rescue, Mira did not look like someone trying to disappear into the dark to match the silence around her. She looked like someone who had finally decided to stay in the light, plates and claws and all, without apology, without fear, and without the need to hide behind usefulness alone. Daniel stayed beside her long after the ship's night cycle deepened, long after the ache in his shoulders faded into something more like calm. Neither of them spoke again for a while, but the silence between them no longer felt like distance. It felt like understanding, the kind that does not need translation, the kind that survives collapsing ceilings and burning coolant lines, and every doubt whispered in a cargo bay by people who did not know any better. When the ship's dawn cycle finally began to brighten the corridors outside, Mira rose first, offering him a hand to help him stand, her grip firm and certain. "Thank you," she said simply. "For what?" "For seeing me." Daniel took her hand and stood, meeting her eyes without hesitation. "I always have," he said. "I just didn't know how to say it until tonight." Together they walked from the observation deck as the ship's systems hummed steadily around them, repaired, stabilized, and moving forward once more, carrying them both toward whatever waited next among the stars.